Steven, I think they're ready for us. You ready?
Yep.
So what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of We Got Next. I'm one of your hosts of the show, Hayes, aka O'Shifty, with the one, the only, the original Steven at Steven_Springs. Steven, how you been? We got a lot today.
Yeah, I'm good. Just chilling. I will say it's gonna be a rough stretch in the next couple of days in the Springer household. Mason, my 5-year-old, is having a colonoscopy and an endoscopy done on Thursday. So if anyone out there who's ever had one of those done, which I have not yet, I don't think you have either. We're not at that age yet.
Not at that age, but yet.
Yeah, but we're getting there. We've all heard the horror stories of getting ready for those. So he's having done at the same time. So can't eat tomorrow. He's gonna be in the bathroom all day tomorrow. He can only have like Italian ice and like lemon flavored ice, like freeze pops, whatever. Then he has to be in the bathroom all day. So then his procedure is Thursday. So it's gonna be a long couple of days for the homies. But we'll have a big celebration meal on Friday or Thursday once the shit's done. So shout out to the homie.
Shout out. So I always think about different things that you're supposed to celebrate and not supposed to celebrate or acknowledge when it comes to like parenting and then like having kids. That's one thing you do because that's something that adults can't even get through. Yeah, this is a child that has to go through this. Yeah. So that's kind of one thing. The other thing I wanted to end up bringing up is a completely different story. The NFL schedule is released on May 15th for anyone out there that cares about that. Steven, my one question for you is when it comes to the NFL schedule, hell, a lot of things only in sports. Name another industry where you can have a watch party or an event for an NFL schedule, a draft, the preseason, training camp, and rookie mini camp.
Yeah, I mean it's only football that you're doing that with. Like no one cares about any other sports like as deep as football is. But even like the truest of basketball fans, they're not doing that for the NBA draft. I would say if you ask football fans compared to basketball fans, like just like we'll take the draft for example. I don't know about you now, definitely not me these days, but like 5-10 years ago, I'm not gonna say everybody that was drafted, but like even the dudes 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I knew a lot of those guys because football is football. Basketball, man, once you get past like the 5th pick these days, I don't know who any of these people are. Like because they're coming from Australia, Europe, coming from a ton of places, China, they're coming from all over the world. And there's like very few of those big names in college basketball. Now, obviously, I know there's more players, but star power in football is way more in like college level. So you're not getting any of that shit with basketball. That's why the NFL is a billion dollar industry, and no one else is even close.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the big things that I was like, every single event, I get so many messages talking about. For starters, for those that don't know, I have a decent amount of season tickets. Like the Lions were saying, come to the draft party. The Buccaneers were saying, come to the draft party. Why are you're having draft parties outside of the draft itself? Yet you're not going to meet any of those players.
Bro, did you watched the draft and you saw, bro, there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people just standing there.
What are you doing?
Bro, they're in a mosh pit. You're standing there for hours, bro. Hours. The only good place would be like if you're on the outside and you can easily escape. Imagine if you're that dude right in the middle. Like you're not going anywhere for hours, bro. And the Lions were like, the like late 20s in the picks. So like everyone, all the Detroit fans, they left right after that. So imagine you're standing there in the draft. It's not like it doesn't go 1, 2. It's like 1,
slow,
2. It's so slow, and you're just standing there, like just for what reason? For what reason? Unless I'm one of those fans that was like right in the front. That's the only place right in the front, dude. That you could pay me to go to the draft and stand there for hours.
Yes, that's most people don't do that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hell, even think they don't even do that for the NBA draft.
Hell no.
Like,
There's like those little pockets of fans, but like that's it. The rest is just like media and like people off the
dude,
street.
that was over 300,000 people.
I think it was way more than that, wasn't it?
Way more than that.
Five
Yes.
500 plus thousand people.
Yes.
Why?
To
Why?
just hear a name get called.
Why?
You remember
Yeah.
when this was in Radio City Music Hall?
And it
They
was just like
said,
that. Ah, man, that was so good. Like that was so like keep it like simple, like it was man.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good when it was there.
So that was the one thing. The next NFL piece of note. So I do a decent amount of fantasy football. I'm gonna segue into that in a second, but I brought that up because two of the people I follow in terms of fantasy football stuff released information that Rashee Rice, did you hear about his incident?
Yeah, dude. Come on, bro. Like we just did this with him. We just did this. You gotta kick him, or you gotta kick him off the team, man.
So here's the thing, because they say the one thing that can get NFL players in trouble is the offseason. If you keep them during the season, they damn near can be saints. You let that offseason happen, it's over. And it doesn't matter the sport. NBA has this, NFL has this.
Oh.
Like they just have it. It doesn't happen. You can even put it into certain MLB players. When it's off season, they go back home, shit happens. During the regular season, it's fine. And that's why if you listen to Gilbert Arenas and them, they say they don't know what to do when they retire because they have all this free time. The players are used to having a schedule. When you don't give them a schedule, they don't know what to do.
And they've had a schedule since high school,
Yes.
Like and they did it through college, 3 or 4 years, whatever. And then you're, or a year, whatever sport. And then you're in the league for, hopefully for a long time. You're
Mm-hmm.
in there for 10, 12 years. But there's guys like Jay Hill who were not in
Mm-hmm.
the league for 10 years and had to retire way earlier than they thought.
Yeah.
And he had a plan, but you still got to figure out life. And
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a family or whatever, you gotta figure out all that shit. So I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. If you're
Yeah.
making that kind of money, and I'm not even saying like if you're making, if you're one of those guys making 10, $15 million, that's a different type of lifestyle. You're kind of forced to like it's almost better if you're like one of those superstars because yes, you hear their names, but like they're pulled in so many different directions, like for commercials or like sponsors, whatever, other random events that like they almost sometimes now that's like the small 1%, but like they almost don't have time to get in trouble. The
Mm-hmm.
worst that they do is like they, say something in public, like to a cameraman or something, whatever. But
Yeah.
like these guys that are just like making some bank and they're maybe like not as like high profile or whatever. It just even those guys, bro, if I'm making that kind of money, like like what are you doing, man? Like people
Yeah.
would kill to be in the NFL. Like kill, bro, kill to be in
They
NFL.
would.
I would give up a lot to be an NFL player for sure. But like when you have that kind of money, you have the NFL. That's probably what people think. The NFL does take care of its players like while they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
You get access to anything you want, basically, bro. Anything you want,
Yeah.
like top to bottom, everything. You play for $1 billion corporation, and you know that you're going to get fed well. You're going to have like good housing. You're going to be able to afford that stuff. Be in good cities, whatever, and like be good. And then you fuck it up, man. Like ah, it's so
I
frustrating.
I don't know
So
how
frustrating. And
any of that
I'm
happens.
sure these like I'm sure these I'm sure these guys are not bad people. There are bad eggs.
No.
There are like guys who are just like dickheads. But like I'm sure Rice is not like at his core a bad dude. He's had a bad stretch because he's put himself in bad situations. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. He's just making some bad decisions. And hopefully he finds out. He did fuck around and find out twice in the span of like 2 months. That's also very tough to do. That's some Hall of Fame fuckery right there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
just
think part of it is they just won the championship. I don't know if he was playing on a different team and did not win a championship if it would get this much
If
notoriety.
he's playing for the Panthers, no, definitely not, dude. Like
No.
no one knows what's going on with the Panthers. Like any player outside of Bryce Young, no one knows a thing that's going on.
No.
They can do whatever they want, but not when you're playing for the best team in the league.
Yeah. So that was kind of one thing I think people needed to end up just realizing that it went from cloud nine, and then ever since he started jumping around and getting pissed off with Patrick Mahomes for not getting the ball, that shit went down really fast. I'm gonna zoom through this, but of course I want to highlight different things in terms of the crypto side so that we can end up getting to a hell of a lot of things with the NFL side. And I'm gonna see if I can do this tie in really well to segue over into the sports side. From the finance side, number one is make sure if you hold any Jupiter, aka that is the DEX exchange token on Solana, do the voting that they have. You're going to be able to take advantage of different airdrops they end up having or claims that they have if you just do the different staking and voting that they do have up there. Something else, there's something called fantasy tops. It's very similar to digital trading cards, but you get to end up holding and owning your favorite Twitter influencers, if you so call it. You're able to make money on Blast, and then that Blast gold that is going to be had will end up turning into some sort of airdrop that'll happen with the Blast token. So I do hold some of it. I haven't been doing it a lot. The next thing is AI Arena is kind of the next SocialFi platform that people have been talking about. If y'all remember, Friend Tech was a big one. I maybe got like $2 of Friend Tech, but I ended up purchasing a good amount of Friend Tech, just a token. So right now I'm up 50%. So I'm going to hold that. I'm hoping for $4. If I can get $4, then I'll end up selling it. After that, finally, the last two things are Dorian, who's one of the people I really enjoy following and listening to the content that he ends up putting out. He used to have a show called Rare Fud with Dorian, Bison, and Joe. They ended up just having different things going on in life, so they couldn't continue it. But Dorian just put out an hour episode just explaining various different things you need to pay attention to in the crypto world. He also laid out 4 to 5 different people on Twitter that you should follow. So I think you should give him a follow if you do anything else. And kind of going into the final thing that I find interesting. So at the Ohio State University, their commencement speaker was booed because he was trying to chill and talk about Bitcoin. It's the craziest thing, and you just know where we are in life. And I was talking to one of my friends, Manny, and he said, according to the same dipshits that were booing, they believe that their kids should spend $360,000 to make $18 an hour. That's what the leftist rats end up believing, whereas you can end up doing this in Bitcoin and you won't need to have that much debt. So it just shows you whenever people say that, oh, everyone knows about Bitcoin, we actually all don't know about Bitcoin. Because if you have people booing at an Ohio State commencement, which we all have our thoughts and feelings towards Ohio State, that's how it is. And before I end up segueing into the sports side of things, I should potentially be seeing Mike, our good friend Mike.
Hey.
If anybody knows who that is, he's been on the show a couple of times, but he is going to be speaking at a conference, an ETH DC conference next Tuesday. So the hope is, depending on the time, I will try and hop over there just to see him and then come back for the show that night. But we will update you next week on if I do or don't get to go to that. But I told you I'm trying to go to different events and see the homies more, if anything else. But Steven, so we're going to start this off with a fantasy football thing. So today I ended up going with my coworkers. We had a work event. We ended up going to Top Golf. That's beside the point. But I was talking to like 3 of the people there about like fantasy football stuff. And if anyone has been paying attention to me on Twitter, I talk a lot to one of the homies. His name is Sleaze PFF. So he does a lot of fantasy football stuff. And and so he had been like mentioning like a fantasy football draft that he's doing. He does a dynasty one. So I let a month or two go by, and I told him that I would join in one because we talk a lot. He's like, I definitely want you to get in on it. So I was like, all right, bet. So I joined it. It's I'm not going to say how much it is. It's more than $50. It's less than $200. That's all I'm going to say. And then the kicker is, so it's a payout of first place, second place, third place. They all get some sort of blank. Um, that's beside the point. The draft itself is the part that's blowing me because the draft started today at 1 o'clock and
Oh,
you
yeah.
have 8 hours to
Yeah.
make your selection.
Yeah.
How the hell do you have 8 hours to make a selection? And you know who was the first pick in the draft? Me. I do not do dynasty draft picks. You first off, they get on you when you make a selection that you believe is good, and they're like, "Oh, this is a rookie." I chose Christian McCaffrey first in my fantasy dynasty draft. They were like, "Oh, you could have got so much value from him in the second and third round." If you understand anything about me, I complain about not getting Christian McCaffrey every single year. And the year I don't get him, he goes off. Do you think I was going to make that happen in this league? No. And then, of course, the next picks was Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, the regulars who you normally center your team around, a quarterback. I went with the running back who probably will be good this year and will be good next year. Then after that, whatever. But what they don't realize is, do you think I'm playing with them for 3 years? No.
Bro, I got one for you. Did I ever tell you that I got kicked out of a dynasty league?
You did. And that's why I brought this up.
Yo, yo, you said
Oh,
what? You brought it up?
that's why I brought it up because I thought
Oh,
of
yeah,
you, which your
yeah,
dynasty, but go ahead.
yeah. So your boy got kicked out of a dynasty league. This was 2 years ago. I was in it for two, right? And I was all about it in the beginning, all about it. My kids were so young enough, and I was all about it. That was like my peak fantasy, and now I'm on the backside of things. Um, First year, I got third place out
That's
of like,
solid.
I think 12 guys. First year doing it, right? So everyone was pissed off at that point already because your boy comes in hot. So got third place. Did like you do a rookie draft too. You have to draft rookies. You do all that shit. So I was like really into it. Second year tailed off. Didn't care as much. Still invested, but like once I got to a certain point in the season, you know how it goes. You just fall apart.
Yep.
I finished sixth though, I think fifth or sixth. So I still did pretty good because I had a great team from the year before. Um, but I had some injuries, and then I was like, "Fuck that." I think I had Barkley on that team as well, so she was just like, not good for me. And then the third year, I just did not care. I went from 100 to 0 like that. Just did not care. And I would make random moves. People would send me trades. I wouldn't even look at them, wouldn't even acknowledge them. Would just like put like just I don't even mean like hit decline. I wouldn't even like go in the app, bro. There was one point where I hadn't done enough. I hadn't done enough, and you know how like when you don't click on an app for a long period of time, you have to re-download it. You have to press it and
Yeah.
re-download it. That's what happened. And it's a sleeper app. I don't know what you're using,
That's
but
what I'm using.
yeah. So I had to re-download the app and like log back in. And I had to do notifications left and right. And then my boy hit me up, and I didn't know, and I don't know any of these guys. I know the kid who invited me. He used to live in my neighborhood, and his brother was a part of it. I kind of knew his brother, but there was 10 other guys or 9 other guys who just did not know, like had no idea who these guys were. They were all college buddies of this kid. He went to LSU, so like all over the country type of shit. So I hadn't done jack. So my boy texted me, and he was like,
Because
"Yo,
I know. I
my man,"
know.
he was like, "Yo, we voted and we're kicking out of the league." Yo, I I read that, and it was like a paragraph. He's like, "Yo, don't want to be that guy, don't want to be a dick, but like just the inactivity, bro. It's just like we can't, we're gonna replace you." I was like, so like he voted, he's like, "We voted, we kicked you out of the league." I was like, "Bro, that's cool, man. Like, I don't give a shit." Like I was going that way anyways. I was gonna leap out at the end of the season, really.
Oh,
So yeah. So he's like, "Yeah, do you know hard feelings?" I was like, "Bro, that's a big weight off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about this shit anymore." So like, nope, absolutely, you're good, man. I've talked to this kid like 3 years now.
Steven.
So
Steven.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Like
those,
when was the last time? When was the last time you heard someone get kicked out of a league?
um, funny enough, so a person in our league 2 years ago was in the same situation as you, except there was no vote. It was me. I said, "I'm kicking you out the league." And he was like, "Why?" I said, "Because you're coming in last, and then you're not playing when you
Yeah,
are the dependent person on who makes the playoffs or not." So I kicked him out of the league 2 years ago. Then he got in his feelings because I'd be with my other friends, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the league that like Christian's in, like he's commissioner of, like it's great." And he was like, "Oh, can I get back in?" I was like, "Hell no, you got yourself out the league." So then I let him
no,
back in this
no.
year, and he did good. And I was like, "Good." But
He learned
yet,
his
like
lesson.
he learned his lesson. But I told him if he fucks up again, you're just done.
I'll go and find
So
out.
yeah, that's kind of how it is. So that was kind of the first thing that I wanted to bring up. The other part, did you hear about the WNBA and them announcing charter flights?
No.
So, so the commissioner announced today that potentially even as early as this season, that they will be able to have chartered flights. And someone said, so this money just magically appeared. And I'm like, this money was there. They were just only going to use it if it was worth it. And Caitlin Clark is the reason why they get chartered flights. Like, people
That
do
does,
not realize how much this rookie class is doing for the WNBA.
And people also don't realize how little the WNBA makes.
Yeah.
Like, that's more important. Like, they don't make shit, dude.
No.
Bro, their season's about to start, and the college basketball season ended like a month ago.
Exactly.
Like, what?
Yeah. So that was kind of a surprise to me. One thing that I'm waiting for, and this is why I'm really hype about some of the teams in the Pac-12 joining the Big Ten and like the Big 12 in those different ways, because USC gets to play University of Maryland. So I will be going to that women's college basketball game, because
Bro,
that means
those dudes are gonna hate College Park during the fall.
they are going to be pissed. The weather, everything. Oh my, it's so different for them. But
so
yeah,
different.
so the women's USC team will be coming over here, which it's a cheap, like certain things. If you like certain teams, whether it's in men's basketball, football, women's basketball, this is the cheapest time you are ever going to see them play if any of them are good. Because I was telling Steven before, I saw Caitlin Clark for $25. You are not going to be able to see that anymore. Like, that's out the window. And I thought about selling that ticket, and I didn't. So the same thing with like Juju. You know she's going to go to the league after all this happened. So being able to see her for like $25, simple as that. But only thing is, and they talk about this in other sports and stuff, those tickets resale are not going to be that cheap, because people are able to get them for Caitlin Clark like $25. But now they're like, oh shit, some of these women's basketball players are good. We're just gonna like buy it up now. So that's just that. I'm telling you this right now in case you want to become a reseller like some other people that we know. The next thing I want to go into before we get into our big talk today is the NBA. We're gonna start with the Knicks. So Jalen Brunson has 4 straight 40-point games for the Knicks. My first thought is, before I give the floor to you, they just barely beat the Pacers. They are not beating the Celtics. Like, I don't think that can happen. But what are your thoughts on Jalen Brunson's 40-point games? And then also, what do you think this says about the Knicks franchise as a whole, even dating back to like the Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing days, if they're calling him like one of the best?
Well, that's not true, because there's a long that was a long list, but there's names ahead of him. I would probably put Melo ahead of him, and definitely Patrick Ewing. Now, if he wins a championship, I think you can at least start the conversation. But he's only been in the Knicks for like 2 years, right?
Yes.
Like not even 3. He's been in the Knicks for 2 years. And I know Melo didn't do much in the playoffs, but like, it's Melo. He had a really good stretch, but definitely not better than Patrick Ewing. Even John Starks is probably high on the list. If you go with like true Knicks fans, which, by the way, I really wish there could be a Lakers Knicks finals at some point in our lifetime, because
that would be
the atmosphere at both those places, especially obviously Madison Square Garden, because it's the mecca of basketball. Like, the atmosphere is crazy in there, and there's just celebrities, and like the people in the New York on the New York floor seats, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Those most of those celebrities that are fans are actually fans.
Yes.
We all know Spike.
Tracy
We all know
Morgan
Spike
and
Lee.
everything.
Yeah, we all know Spike Lee, but like Jon Stewart, 50 Cent was there. 50 Cent's a New York guy. Ben Stiller. All these guys are like true. You see stuff on Marbury was going nuts last night. So like, that's like, it's nice to see when the Knicks are good. Much like the Staples Center, when the Lakers are good, it gets rocking. It's nice. Other arenas, like Denver's crazy. Minnesota is probably gonna be fucking bonkers the next 2 games. But like, nothing like Madison score guard. Jalen Brunson, 4 straight 40-point games is extremely impressive. Extremely impressive. It's hard to do that in the regular season. Now I know the Pacers defense is not Minnesota. It's good because they're in the playoffs, obviously, but it's not elite. Like the T-Wolves. But still, like again, like I always say, you still gotta go out and do it. So the fact that he's doing it is very impressive and making big shots, getting to the bucket. And he's not, flashy. He's not Kyrie. He's not like the fastest, but like he's just very methodical, gets to a spot and boom, and makes it.
Yep.
And it's super impressive. Now if he goes 5 straight, goes on a little run, you can like and wins the title. Like I think that's a key part. Wins the title. Winning an Eastern Conference title is, I think, part of it. But like if he goes on and the Knicks win a championship and he averages like 35 in the playoffs and has like a dope final stretch, the conversation about him being the greatest Knick, sure, you can go there. You can start that. But let's just like appreciate what he's doing right now. And by the way, I need everyone to stop trying to get rid of LeBron while he's still here. I need everyone to like stop moving on to Anthony Edwards. If Twitter was alive when early LeBron was doing his thing in the playoffs, like imagine if Twitter was around when LeBron dropped 48 on the Pistons in Game 6 and scored the final 25 points for the Cavs. Twitter would have erupted and no one would have. Insane, bro. Insane. So let's pump the brakes. Let's not try and erase LeBron while he's still doing his thing. Just need to make a public service announcement for that. People need to stop being weird too. Stop being weird.
Other thing before we go over to the West, I definitely have to say is Donovan Mitchell's not coming back to Cleveland. I really don't think so.
What's the score in that game? They're playing right now.
It's 94-79, and Donovan Mitchell has 33 points.
Dang, bro.
Like, there's but so much this man can do. And the weird part is there are certain players, and you can tell me if you think of any off the top of your head. There's certain players when you look back on their career, when you're just going to be like, damn, he played there. And you're not going to remember Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. You're going to remember him like in Utah. It's one of those things of, wait, why was he like there? Like almost Russell Westbrook playing in Washington.
Yeah.
It's going to be
exactly the same thing.
What?
Like Paul Pierce, I know he played in Brooklyn. It was like a stint, but it's like, did he?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, did he play there?
Yeah.
Like Blake Griffin played for the Pistons. Did he?
Exactly.
He did? You sure about that?
Yeah, I forget all the time about James Harden playing for Brooklyn. Yeah. It's one of those things that like it happened so fast. Same thing with Jimmy Butler playing for like Philly. It happened, but it was like super quick. You remember his beginning Chicago, you remember his shit that he had in Minnesota and then Miami. So that's kind of one of those things where like Cleveland, I don't know. It was great at first. He had them high scoring games, the 60+ point games. And then now this team is kind of, I don't know what it is. But going over to the West, because the East already, we know how that is. I texted this to Steven last night. And I texted to my brothers at the same time. Last night, you could just go to sleep. Like the Timberwolves had that thing wrapped up so quick. And the defense that they're playing on Jamal Murray and the way they're playing on Jokic, insane. On top of that, so many people were giving Rudy Gobert shit for not playing last night because of his kid. I promise you, the Timberwolves probably said in the huddle and in the locker room, you can go take care of your kid. We're going to beat them anyways. Like, it's not one of those that Rudy said on his own, hey, I'm going to go do this. For you to be 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, pretty sure you're not going to go say, I'm going to just take this night off. They definitely had some sort of conversation of, we're straight. And you beat them by 20+ without him. So,
yeah, that's impressive. Mavs play tonight, correct? Their series starts tonight, I believe.
Yep. Yes, OKC.
I'm not counting out the Nuggets right now. I don't think they get swept. I don't think they're going to win the series, but I would not be surprised if it goes like 6.
Yeah.
Like, because they're still the defending champs. They still have Michael Porter Jr., who had a terrible night, like awful night, and that's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen again. Jamal Murray's not going to play the way he did last night.
Mm-hmm.
Jokic is going to be better. Like you have to imagine that they're going to be better. And Michael Malone, sorry, is going to be like, coach them up nice. Like they are the defending champs for a reason. And they do have arguably one of the top 5 best players in the world. They got Jamal, like I said, they'll be fine. KCP, like I'm not going to count him out, but it doesn't look good. We'll say that. But shout out to Anthony Edwards, man.
Shut up.
He's fucking. He's a dog. He is a dog, and he's on that, on that trajectory already. But,
all I'm gonna say is Adam Silver's probably smiling right now, because what people don't realize is they're trying to figure out who is going to be the face when LeBron leaves. At this moment right now, an American-born player.
I was just gonna say it's all foreign players now.
Yeah, they don't really want a foreign player to be it, because then it essentially becomes like other sports that we have. Like if you think about some of the other big name sports, it's kind of controlled by foreign players. Hockey isn't even technically our sport. Yeah, it's more so like Canadians take that over. And then if you look at baseball, if you really think about it, you're going to either think about any of the players that are playing for like the Dodgers, or Ellie De La Cruz is coming in that category too, of just names you think of. You remember when like Juan Soto was around here, Manny Machado, all these different ones. They are not American born. So then looking at the NBA, you think of Luka, you think of Jokic, you think of Giannis. So for them to see Anthony Edwards, it's like, you know what? As long as you don't mess up like John Morant did, because respectfully, this was John Morant's to take. Like he had everything. And then they even tried with court and stuff. And they were like, look, we just got to shut you down. So that was that. Go ahead.
I got one thing to say. If the Nuggets lose, whether it's this round or don't win a title this year, I should say. I'll just say that. I saw something today that like going back to back is extremely tough, right? Yeah. Getting to the finals is tough. In the conference finals is even tough. LeBron did that shit for 8 straight seasons. To the finals. I know what his record was in the finals. I fully understand that. I just don't think people understand how like taxing that is mentally, physically, emotionally, all that shit. Like 8 straight years you're playing like
an additional season.
80 games a season with the regular season and the playoffs. I know he misses games in the regular season, so 80 plus games. And then you're done, like mid June, whatever it is, right? Something like that. And you have like a handful of months off, but then you're right back in you're right back in the gym. And then this year, these dudes are going to be right back, in the Olympics. A lot of these guys are playing the Olympics for all over the world. 8 straight seasons, bro. Mm-hmm. Going from in the East, going through all that, 8 straight seasons is absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And like no one talks about that nearly enough, because it's just like whatever. Like we expected it though.
Yeah.
So like getting back to the finals is tough enough, and it doesn't look good for the Nuggets. But I want people to don't forget that. Don't be weird. Don't forget that.
So I'm gonna switch. You talked about LeBron, and I'm gonna talk about MJ. So again, I'm going back to my top golf day I had with the coworkers. I can't ever tell you guys what my actual company is, because half the stories I say, you would definitely call up every single one of your HR people on me for it. But we had a conversation about Michael Jordan today, and I never thought about this. But do you remember the year Michael Jordan played baseball?
I do.
Okay, so I was talking to some of my older coworkers, like late 30s, and they said a conspiracy theory out there is Michael Jordan played baseball that year because it was them just secretly suspending him from the NBA for like gambling and other things like that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and honestly, when I heard it, you hear people explain it, you can't say no, you're wrong, but you can't say yeah, you're right, because they blended it in there so well, if that was the case. Because it was one of those random things. And it wasn't like Michael Jordan was Deion Sanders or like any of them when they played. He wasn't great.
I mean, my man was on a 3-repeat, going for 4.
Yeah.
He could probably get on 8 in a row.
Yeah.
The Rockets weren't going to stop him. So, yeah, I've heard that before. And I can't, you can't say they're wrong. It sounds pretty good. It sounds very believable. Like very, like you can see, I can see that happening. Like in 20 years, like there's like a story that comes out about it. Yeah, I can. Oh yeah, 100%. Sign me up. I can believe that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So we're gonna switch over and go to the topic you all heard about last week, and we're finally going to dive into it. So every single week, we're going to talk about a different division. So we're starting this week with the AFC North. Just to give you guys some background on who's in the AFC North, we have the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. So what we're doing with this, and I gave Steven the context of what's going to happen. We're going to explain like who we believe is or was the best quarterback so far in it, the best running back or committee, the wide receiver group, who you believe is the best defense, offensive line, and then which team do you think will kind of be first? Like, what's the order for this upcoming year? And if you want to, 3 draft picks this year, doesn't have to be for a particular team, but in that division that you believe were the best. So kind of, I'll go through mine just so everyone understands what I'm saying by all of this. I'll say the standings, and then I'll actually say the different ones I believe. So last year, the Ravens were the best in the division. They went 13-4. Cleveland Browns were 11-6. Pittsburgh Steelers were 10-7. Cincinnati Bengals were 9-8. A lot of that probably will change, and we'll discuss that. But going into who I feel is the best quarterback currently, and a lot of people will probably be surprised by who I end up saying, but the best quarterback I personally believe is Joe Burrow in that division. I know some people might end up saying Lamar Jackson. That's fair for them to say. The best running back, he's actually a new addition to this division, and I have to go with Derrick Henry until he proves otherwise. With that, going to the wide receiver group, there's a wide receiver that is the best, who's probably number 1 or 2, whoever you talk to in the league. So I have to then say the Cincinnati Bengals, because then you have T. Higgins, at least for this year. Then defense-wise, the Browns made the playoffs because of defense. I for damn sure know it was not because of the quarterback. It was the defense that got him there. And then offensive line, because of, and it's a tie. There's 2 different ones I go back and forth on, but I kind of flipped a coin on this. I'm saying the Ravens because in order for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to be the people that they are, you need a solid line. The other one I was going to go with was the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because for you to have a 2-headed monster there, the offensive line has to get some of the credit for that. So what are your thoughts on that before we keep going forward? Like, what did you have?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I'll definitely say some different names.
Yeah.
Quarterback wise, I'm probably going to go with Russell Wilson. I think we've seen him do it. Like we've seen him win a Super Bowl. I know they had one of the best defenses of all time, but again, you still got to go out and do it and like be that guy.
Yeah.
I know he's kind of been a letdown the last couple of seasons for whatever reason you want to think. But Lamar Jackson, I will say it again, doesn't do it in the playoffs. So like, all right, you're probably at the bottom of the list. I've seen Deshaun Watson do really well in the playoffs. Now, it was a very, very small sample size. So maybe him and Lamar Jackson can be at the bottom. Joe Burrow has made it to the Super Bowl. People forget that. Like he's made the Super Bowl. He lost, but he's made it there. So he's right there. Russell Wilson has made 2 Super Bowls and has won one of them. Should have had 2. That's besides the point. But I think he still has some juice left in the tank. He's 35. There's not that much juice left, but kind of leads me to, I think the best receiver in the division is definitely Jamar Chase, but I think George Pickens is like slowly climbing that ladder. And if he gets a quarterback who can use him the right way and a good offensive coordinator who can use him the right way, which you could have both of those things this season, I think that can really open up a lot of things for the Steelers. Okay. Running back wise, I'll agree with you. I think Derrick Henry until proven otherwise. Najee Harris, they're not picking up his 5th-year option. So this is going to be a show me season. So I love Jaylen Warren, but I think this could be a really big year for Najee Harris. At least me being a Steelers fan, I hope it is. Tight end group, yeah, I'll go with the Ravens. Mark Andrews is nice. So I don't think that's a big miss. Offensive line, I'll go with the Ravens. I don't want to, but I'll go with the Ravens because
we're not choosing the Bengals. We're not choosing the Bengals.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can go with the Steelers, but I'll go with the Ravens just because, again, what they need to do on offense, you need a good offensive line, and they have one. Defense, I'll go with the Steelers. I think they're the best defensive player in the league in TJ Watt. Should have won the defensive player of the year last year. Got robbed on that one. But I like Minka Fitzpatrick when he's healthy. I love him at safety. So I'm going to go with the Steelers, slim margin. But I'm going to go with the Steelers on that one.
Okay. So my next, and there's nothing I really disagree with. Again, as long as you didn't say the Browns in the wrong category or the Bengals in the wrong category,
sure,
you were good. Yeah, but other than that, the next part of this all that I want us to end up analyzing is the draft. So we see all the different shows, they'll analyze team by team the draft. We're not doing that. I ended up saying, like, you can choose 3 to 5 picks that you think are solid there, because when people analyze a whole division and go name by name, they're not actually giving you any insight, because they could say, yeah, we talked about the 6th-round pick. No, you didn't. You talked about all 1 through 7, and you just so happened to bring that name up. So kind of with this, the 3 that I had, and Steven might be surprised with one of them. So the first name that I have is Amarius Mims.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah.
I was thinking that. I was going to say it, but I'm not anymore now.
Yeah. So one, he's 6'8", 340. And the same thing I just brought up with the Bengals. Their offensive line is part of the reason why Joe Burrow kept getting hit year after year. And you need somebody to help protect him. And I think that Amarius Mims can be one of those players that can do it. So that's one of them. Of course, he's a Georgia guy. So you know how the culture is down there in Georgia. It's not like your run-of-the-mill organization. The next one is one that might surprise some people. And if you were to ask me these type of questions when I was 18, 19, I would not say the same answers, but ask me now, I understand it differently. And my second person is actually Zach Frazier from West Virginia, center. Okay. You don't understand the importance of a center. And if you can get a solid center for a long time, that's a big thing. They used the 2nd-round pick on him. So you know they have had to have seen something in at least scouting and stuff to figure that out as to let's go with him. By the way, that's a Pittsburgh Steelers person. Yep. So I can't not go with the other side of the coin now. And the third one, and if I'm saying this wrong, you can tell me if I am, but it was actually a 3rd-round pick for the Baltimore Ravens, Adisa Isaac.
Yep.
And from Penn State University. I say that because if there's one thing about the Baltimore Ravens, you know they love their linebackers. And to get a linebacker in there to just replace a linebacker that went out the door is going to be big. So those are kind of my 3. Again, yes, people can choose wide receivers, running backs, but I started to look at different important positions that these teams needed. Offensive linemen, the Bengals needed so badly. In order for Jamar Chase to get the ball, you have to have protection up front, because Jamar Chase is not going to be one of those guys that's going to be doing sweeps all the time or like reverses and stuff. He likes to be up and down the field. Same thing with like the line. We brought up the offensive line for the Steelers, and having like Zach Frazier there, I think can be good. I don't know yet, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they're going to plug him in right away or if they already have someone that they're going to keep there instead. So that's
we'll see. We'll see.
So, and then the third one, Isaac, I can foresee just the way Harbaugh's mind is. Don't be surprised if he competes for a lot of playing time in his first year. That's just, they love their linebackers. Another thing you realize, they're another one of those teams. They don't just keep the same 3 or 4 linebackers in the whole game. They love rotations. So you can end up seeing that happen there. But who did you end up having?
I like it. I'm going to go, my first one, I'm going to go with, I have 2 wide receivers and a center as well. My first one is Roman Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Receiver out of Michigan, going to my Steelers.
Yep.
I think with the loss of Deontay Johnson, George Pickens is going to get all the love, but they're going to need that second guy. And looking at the Steelers roster at receiver, Quez Watkins is there, Denzel Mims, George Pickens, obviously, Deuce Watts as another rookie they brought in, Van Jefferson. So like Marquez Callaway, Calvin Austin. They have also Cordell Patterson. I completely forgot about that. Shout out to him. Now, like football fans know those names, right? And those are like guys who have flashed like 2 games in their career. And if they can put together, yeah, they can maybe be something special. But it's going to be George Pickens and then everybody else. So they needed another guy. And I'm not saying that a rookie coming in is going to blow everybody else away. But guy who played at Michigan, played in another like pro system, not like the offense, but like the culture there is like a pro thing. If you hear any stories about Jim Harbaugh running the show at Michigan, they said it was a professional atmosphere above everything else. So I think that's going to be a big one. Second one's another wide receiver. I love this guy, Jermaine Burton, receiver from Alabama, going to the Bengals.
Yes.
You maybe if you're the Bengals, you go into the season assuming T. Higgins is going to be gone next year. So you need another guy. They drafted him in the 3rd round, which I think is great. He wasn't like super productive in college, but he runs great routes. He's super quick. He's tough. He's got to keep his head on his shoulders. That's a big thing, with any player coming in the league. But you got to assume, maybe that T. Higgins is going to be gone, and a guy like him to learn from the best receiver, arguably in the league, and Jamar Chase. So I think that's going to be a big one as well. Third one is another center. I'll go different. Zach Zinter, center out of Michigan. I don't know what his injury was, but it was pretty bad against Ohio State. But he was, I think he won the Remington Award for best center in the country last year with on a Michigan team that ran the ball 38 straight times against Penn State. And an offense that was completely run game oriented with Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. So, and he knows he's tough. He played in the Big Ten, going up against incredible defensive lines week in and week out. So you played in Michigan again, another pro system, pro culture. So I think him going to the Browns and being that center for whoever the quarterback is going to be, obviously he's likely going to be Deshaun Watson unless things change, he gets hurt, whatever. But regardless, to have that kind of guy, a 3rd round pick on him, that's a big one. Honorable mention though is the guy they took in the 2nd round, which is Michael Hall Jr., D tackle from Ohio State. I hate Ohio State, obviously.
Yes.
I hate Ohio State, obviously. His ability and skill level did not match his production, which is probably why he went in the 2nd round. Same thing with who the Ravens got a couple of years ago, Jason Oweh, another defensive end, outside linebacker from Penn State. Had no sacks in college. So if he had like 5 sacks, 10 sacks, he probably might have gone top 10. But he didn't, slid down to the last pick he was close to the last pick of the 1st round. And the Ravens got him. And he's been like pretty good. So Michael Hall has got a lot of potential. He's going to clog up the middle, allow more opportunities, hopefully, for guys like Myles Garrett. So I think that's a great pick. But he's like, he's got to get going a little bit.
Yeah.
I got Jermaine Burton, Roman Wilson, and Zach Zinter. So 2 Michigan guys there.
Yep. It just pay attention to this because it seems as though this year a lot of Michigan players got picked up same way as like the Georgia Bulldogs. They had their run of a bunch of Georgia dogs. And it just shows you when you come off your national championship or so, those teams want you because it's very different in college football than it is in college basketball. You can win a national championship in college basketball. Don't give a damn. Like you're not going number 1. But if you win the national championship in college football,
you go undefeated.
And then undefeated too. Yeah, that says a lot. And then it wasn't just one player. You have the wide receiver that was there, the quarterback's there, the running back that was there, the line that was there. They're picking up all these different dudes. And then the coaches go into the league too. Clearly there's something. At least one of those players is going to be an all-pro, at least at some point. I don't know when it's going to be. You would think. Yeah, the way they were picking them all. Granted, the all-pro or Hall of Famer can honestly just be the coach, but someone's going to end up doing it. Now, the final part is saying how we feel the standings are going to go this year. I'll start at the bottom. I think the Browns are going to finish last at this rate because Joe Burrow is back. I do think the Ravens can do it in first again this year. It's one of those things of the only thing that hesitates me is the wide receiver. Like they have everything else that's fine, but those wide receivers is the one thing that's going to impact them. Yes, they have Derrick Henry, but I can also see crazy shit happening with Derrick Henry, not in the great way. If he stays healthy, he's getting at least 12 to 15 touchdowns. I don't care what anyone says. All those 1 yard ones that Lamar Jackson was getting, that's going to Derrick Henry. All the ones Gus Edwards was getting, that's Derrick Henry, and then some. But I think it'll be the Ravens at the top. I really think the Steelers and the Bengals, they're both going to make the playoffs, but I keep going back and forth. I'm putting the Bengals above the Steelers just because I don't know if it's going to be Russell Wilson or if it's going to be Justin Fields at the rate all of this is going. Yes, I want it to be Russell Wilson, but that's if we get Seattle Russell Wilson. If we get Denver Russell Wilson, well, the Steelers might actually just send him to Philly, and then Philly will just send him out to state. And then the Browns are going to be last. The Browns are not last year because Joe Burrow was injured. The Browns are not coming in first, second, or third because the Steelers are much better. The Bengals, their quarterback's there, and the Ravens, they just are playing at the same level. But what are your thoughts on how the division is going to shake out this year?
I would probably agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lamar Jackson is like only going to continue to get better. I just don't know, like Derrick Henry, like you can tell that it's like starting to the decline is kind of there. Now, who knows? This might bring some new life into him, and gets with this organization who runs the ball and runs it well, and like not just like turn and give it to him. Like it's with a purpose, like what they're doing. Not like Tennessee, they were just like, all right, here you go, like go for it. So he might not get as many touches, but I can definitely see him getting a boatload of touchdowns. Receiver, I mean, you got to have someone step up. And is it going to be your boy Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers?
None of them.
Yeah, I mean that's it's tough, man. Like, and you can't as much as great and as elite as Mark Andrews is.
Yeah,
like you can't throw him the ball 15 times a game. And I know they have Isaiah. Like you just can't rely on the tight ends like that. I know Gronk did his thing. I know Travis Kelce, but like they, as great as Mark Andrews is, they're like another level of what they can do. So like that's different. There's always the exception.
Their receivers suck.
Yes, they do. Now, the Steelers, I think, can either be the Steelers can win the division and go they can go they can win 13, 14 games with Russell Wilson. With that great of a defense, he hasn't had that good of a defense since he left Seattle. Granted, I get it. Earlier, it was one of the best defenses of all time, but nonetheless, you still have guys like TJ Watt, still have a really good defense. So if he can do that, he has George Pickens. It's not quite DK Metcalf, but like maybe smaller size. Yes, he's got a run game. He's I know Najee Harris is not Marshawn Lynch, but same type of deal. You can just get him to get those 3 or 4 yards when you need it. So I think Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson that we know, that we saw early in the first 6 years of his career. Steelers can win the division, like going away too. And the Browns, I'll pick them to finish last, but I still think they can make the playoffs. You know? So like finishing last in this division, like they might be 10-7. Like that might be last in division. That might get them into the last wildcard spot or whatever. This might be the best division in football, but they're going to beat each other up. So it's just like someone's going to have to finish last. Bengals, Joe Burrow's got to be healthy. Jamar Chase, I think, like I said, Jermaine Burton, another guy who can, if he comes along pretty well and like is that their guy, they can win the division. Like this is a toss up for, I think, 3 teams: the Ravens, Steelers, and the Bengals. Browns, yes, like if Deshaun Watson is that Deshaun Watson from Houston, they can win the division. Like, this is probably the only division where anybody can win. Like, you can make an argument for any team because they all have a potentially elite quarterback who can win an MVP. All these guys can win an MVP. And Justin Fields is no slouch either. Let me remind you, he's nice. He was just in a terrible spot in Chicago. If he's the guy, let's say he beats out Russell Wilson in training camp, which can very well happen, he's going to have all those weapons. And that offense completely changes with a more mobile and better elite runner than Russell Wilson is. He's not a bad runner, but Justin Fields is probably better. All those quarterbacks can win an MVP. They all have really good running games. They all have elite defensive units or like one elite defensive player. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. So this is probably the best division in football. And all those things can win. I'll pick the Ravens to win. I don't want to.
but I gotta see. I might change my mind after like 6 weeks, depending on how Russell Wilson is playing. I'll go Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, Browns.
So one thing I just want everyone to know how good the AFC North is. The Ravens had 4 losses last year. 3 of the 4 losses were in the division.
Yeah,
2 of those 3 losses were to the Steelers.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Steelers had 10 wins, and 2 of them were one of the best teams in football. Yeah,
exactly.
Doesn't make any sense.
The second part to it is the Bengals had 8 losses. 5 of their 8 losses were in the division.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really how it kind of comes down to. And then if you look at the Browns had 6 losses last year. 2 of their losses towards the end of the season were to the Steelers and the Ravens. The other loss, the Bengals. So they have 3 of their losses were in the division. And that's not how it is in other divisions. You look at the AFC West, Chiefs are chilling in that every single year if they want to. This is just in that one division. The Eagles can run away with their division if they want to. The Buccaneers can do the same thing if they don't want to be stupid. But honestly, this year, that's a toss-up. We'll get to that. But just think about the AFC North when you see it. And then from a financial standpoint, when you look at how much tickets cost for you to go to one of these AFC North games, they're always sky high. Why? Because you know the product you're going to get on the field. You can go see the Chiefs play, I don't know, the Chargers, or the Chiefs play the Broncos. It's not going to be the same because you're not going to get that gut mouth football. You never know what you're going to get over there. But kind of closing this up with the AFC North, what's the next division that you want?
We'll go. Well, you mentioned it. We'll go AFC West. We'll go outside country.
So AFC West next week, and then for anyone that doesn't know, but I hope you do know because most people know Taylor Swift. The AFC West is the Kansas City Chiefs, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, and the Los Angeles Chargers. A lot of things happened in that division. There are 2 new head coaches over there too, so we'll have to talk about all of that. But kind of wrapping that up for this week, what do you have for everyone?
Nothing. I mentioned earlier, Women's having some procedure done on Thursday, colonoscopy and endoscopy. So gonna be out of commission for a hot second, but yeah, little homie's strong, so we'll be all right.
Yeah. So the only thing I have over here, and I thought about this. So Steven, I know I told everyone for when I went to Sweden for that trip. I'm bringing this up because I was reflecting. I said, what would life have been like if at like 23, 24, when we were at Sports International or like a job like that, they sent us out the country.
Yeah.
And I was like, we would actually know how to act. It would not be.
And we would, and we probably wouldn't make it back either.
We would not make it back. Exactly.
We've so Spirit Airlines and all that kind of shit too.
Exactly. And that's what my my boss was saying. He was like, we don't send everybody here. So that definitely says something about you. I'm like, hey, for damn sure would not be sending like me, Steven. If you want to add Max or Tiana, you can, but they're not sending us over there.
No, Max would get it somewhere.
Yeah, he would get lost, and then we would never see him again. But that was kind of the only thing I was thinking. Until next week, we out.
Peace.